careful, please. That elite was an ultra.
I recently made this video about how we needed to stop saying prophets are fallible, prophets are not perfect. And when I was editing that video, I just wanted to explain a different angle, I guess. I was kind of angry and trying to make a point, but I think that some of the subtleties of what I was trying to say probably got a little bit lost, because, anyway, you can't talk about everything all at once. The point I was trying to make is that people say, oh, you know, prophets are fallible, but if I pop off and start criticizing Elder Bednar for ticky-tacky things on whatever with his video, or the prophet for whatever thing I might criticize him for, I'm sure there's plenty. In fact, I know there's plenty. But immediately, people would attack me and say, no, you need to be humble. You need to accept him because he's the prophet and you shouldn't criticize him. If that is the reaction that I got out of that video, I mean, I haven't even looked at the comments yet, but that is the reaction that I was trying to get, that if someone would attack me for saying, you know, Bednar, you're being unfair to Bednar, that is exactly the point that I was trying to make. You know, people don't actually mean what they say when they talk about how prophets are fallible. And when you criticize a living prophet, you know, the white blood cells, the defense system, alarm bells go on. And these people, they don't really respond to what you're saying so much as the tone and the music. And you can almost say whatever you want, provided it has a nice quality with the music or whatever, then they're going to like what you have to say. But if you were going to say something grouchy that pertains to them, that is critical of them or their way of life, then suddenly they get defensive. And the reason why they don't care if you criticize Brigham Young or Joseph Smith is because it has nothing to do with their life, whereas the living prophet does. And while people are quite quick to criticize someone who might say something mean about the living prophet, they would never do the same of, you know, Brigham Young. Say some girl, she says, I just have a hard time with Brigham Young. Immediately we start attacking Brigham Young. Whereas if someone said, I have a really hard time with President Nilsson, they're the problem. You see, it's a double standard. You see what I'm saying there? That's the point I'm trying to make. And I think that Star Wars, in the average member's life, they are more emotionally invested in Star Wars than they are in, like, the gospel. And so if you criticize who they want you to criticize, like, oh, The Last Jedi, that's where we ruined it all. It's Rian Johnson. He ruined Star Wars. Or it's Jar Jar Binks. Jar Jar Binks is when the trilogy was ruined. But if you start to criticize the original perfect trilogy, suddenly they get all angry. And we do not have that response when it comes to criticizing the first three prophets of the Restoration, it seems. Not in the same way. And certainly not with Brigham Young or John Taylor. You get pretty much free reign criticizing those two. Whereas in your average elders quorum, if you started talking smack about Darth Vader or something, you would not make friends, which is ridiculous. Okay, Star Wars is a movie made to sell toys, you know, and this is the level that we are operating on. So, you know, it's not that evil to use music with your voice, but we need to be careful because people are so susceptible to being lied to with music, and it just makes me feel like the gift of the Holy Ghost is like diminished or not real or something, because people are so easily enchanted by music and not by what is being said. I think you could say almost anything, and if it had the right visuals and the right music to go with it, people would be like, wow, I just felt the Spirit so strong. You could say anything at all. And that was the point I'm trying to make. And there's no reason to be hating on Bednar or Joseph Fielding Smith or Joseph F. Smith. You know, there's no reason to be hating on these people, Kimball, all these prophets, for what they have done, any more than there is a reason to think that Moses is a wicked fallen prophet for delivering the law of Moses. He gave the people what they wanted, and it was the children of Israel that God blamed for that whole situation. He didn't say Moses is a wicked prophet. No, he said the children of Israel are wicked. They didn't listen. I've said this before, but if the people had repented and humbled themselves, I think that they would have gotten the higher law. Like, Moses could have gone just right back up, gotten the new law. But they didn't want it. They wanted a curse instead. They wanted a curse instead. And then they have praised Moses as one of the greatest prophets ever, and they praise him for giving the people what they wanted, not what they deserved. And so I think Moses did as he was commanded of the Lord, and he gave the lesser law. Now, I don't know if what's going on right now is because the Lord is showing up in the flesh and commanding it. I don't think that's what's happening. But it doesn't matter, because ultimately the people are getting what they want, and the law of Moses is what the people wanted. They wanted a lower law. So right now, it kind of feels like we're getting the silent treatment. I think it's very tempting to want to be mad at Russell M. Nelson or Bednar or whatever and say, why is Elder Bednar preaching about Paul when everyone already knows about Paul? Everyone ever, for the last 2,000 years, knows who Paul is. What are we doing here? Did the restoration happen to tell us about Paul? But everyone wants to see the glamour shots on the beach about Paul. And I don't want to be doom and gloom. I think that, I've mentioned that I like to watch these speedrun documentaries, the speedrun world record history documentaries. They're pretty interesting. And one thing that you should never say is that this record will never be broken, because it always will be. And in the same way with the gospel, God's works are not going to be frustrated. It's the work of men that will be frustrated. The truth cannot be stopped. You can try, but you're not going to be able to stop it. And so, if we think of a speed game like Half-Life 2, you could go along. One way you used to be able to move faster in like the old engine is you could hop. Summoning Salt explains this in his video. But by bunny hopping, you can go faster than walking. And the devs didn't really like that, because you have to hop everywhere. Everyone's hopping everywhere. And so they said, we're going to fix some of these bad physics, and we're going to make it so that it'll slow you down while you're bunny hopping, so you can't actually build speed by hopping around like that. But since video games, 3D video games, and just video games in general, there's almost near infinite inputs that can be put in by the user, it is impossible to account for all the different ways that the system can be abused. And so, by slowing down the bunny hopping, players could actually turn around while jumping and then start jumping backwards, and then they start to build crazy speed, because the code that the developers put in was intended to slow them down, but it actually became a benefit. When applied correctly, it actually becomes a benefit that speeds you up. We can complain about our cursings, we can complain about our law of Moses, or we can find the solution as a humble follower of God and a dedicated disciple of the truth. We can find the solution, we can find the glitch, or whatever you want to call it, where some dev patch, from the dev team that is ruining the fun for us, I suppose, or taking away something that we thought we needed. I believe that there will be built into that, by intention of God, or just by the way that things work, that there is a way that we can shift things in our favor, or we can find a flaw in the system. Users determine how software is used, and you cannot account for it. And so the real world has infinitely more degrees of freedom and input than a computer ever had, because a video game has infinite input possibilities, but you could count them all, whereas in real life you can't count them. And so just to keep going with this whole speedrunning analogy, is that if you want to break the world record, you're going to have to go for the most risky strategies, right? And that may mean that more of your attempts to break the world record fail. But if you want to really win big, that's what you got to do. You can't do this safety strat stuff and expect to win. You have to put skin in the game. And I think a lot of people are very concerned about their personal salvation and their personal celestial glory and all this stupid stuff that doesn't matter, because I don't think that God is concerned about that. One thing that I really like about these Adam God teachings, some people speculate that Adam, when he partook of the fruit, he risked his exaltation to bring into existence this world. And I don't know how severe that risk is. It's probably not the biggest risk, considering he's probably the God of countless creations, but it is a possibility. I like this idea that Satan was exalted and that he fell, that it is a possibility. God could cease to be God. And there are risks, and we do need to take risks and say, what if the truth has been lost from the restoration? What are you going to do? Are you going to abandon the church and go to some break-off and just glory in the truths that you found, the pieces that you found, and just say, wow, I'm so glad that we can live like this and understand what no one else can? Or Bruce R. McConkie, he says, if you believe these things, you'll be damned. Are you willing to risk that? You better be. And that's what I've decided. I'm going to go down with the ship. I'm not going to sit around and pretend like Mormons discovered Jesus Christ. Okay? That was a shocking thing. A young person said this to me. We were watching a documentary. They said to me, I didn't realize that other people believed in Christ. I thought it was just us. And that really shook me. I think that we don't know what we have anymore. We don't know what makes us unique. And I want to fight for what makes us unique. What was restored? It was not Paul. It was not Jesus Christ. These are truths that were safeguarded by the Catholic Church for 1,000 years before we ever showed up. And I think it is crazy to pretend like these are our truths. They're everyone's truths. They were given to us by our ancestors, everyone's ancestors. And so, what is ours? The church is ours. The church is mine. God gave it to us. I want to fight for it. I hope that other people want to fight for it, because I think that that's the only way that we're going to be able to keep it. Even if it wasn't true, it's still ours. It's still a few $100 billion. It's our family. We have got to fight for it and fight for what makes it us. And so Lucifer, or the philosophies of men, or just the frailties of weakness, confusion, whether it's caused by the people and their unwillingness to accept the words of the prophets, or if it's caused by, the hubris of the brethren, I don't really care. It does not matter. You cannot patch out the world record, of Half-Life 2. You cannot patch out speedrunning. You cannot patch out the glitches. Ultimately, it is in the hands of the player, the guy with the controller, as to how the game is going to be played, and they ultimately get to decide what the rules are. You can say, this time limit will never be broken, but discoveries can be made, the hours can be put in, and those limits can be broken. They can say no human can do this. They will find a way for a human to do it. It can and it will be broken. The world records, whether it's on the field, the track and field in the Olympic world or speedrunning world, these things will be broken. They can and they will be broken. Things can and will be improved, so long as there are people willing to do so. And we are going to be the ones to do it. Okay, so we got to stop with this whole, Moses is the most imperfect prophet, or by saying Moses is a perfect prophet. And what we need to focus on is say, we are the children of Israel. Are we really listening to what the prophets say? Let's go back to the very beginning of the restoration and look at everything that the prophets have said. What have we rejected? What have we kept? Let's keep everything that we've kept. Let's go back and accept everything that we've rejected. And the lesser laws of Moses or whatever, let's just let those fall away. Okay? Just gotta move on and press forward into the future. And I just really don't like the idea that we need to focus on our individual salvation. And it doesn't really matter what we're doing as a people, as the children of Israel. I don't like this. I got red-pilled recently on the idea of the kingdom hopper, right? And the kingdom hopper is this idea that you can progress between kingdoms, that there's like a second chance. Like if you end up in the celestial kingdom, there's some second chance that you can progress. The idea that the kingdoms are fixed is a doctrine that was introduced by Heber J. Grant and really, really shored up by Bruce R. McConkie. He said it's one of the 7 deadly heresies. And I say, so be it. If that's a 7 deadly heresy that's going to get me in trouble, well, I'm going to leave it all on the court, so to speak. I'm going to take the risks. Going to risk spilling the secrets, spilling the beans, risk blaspheming sacred things, because I want to say what needs to be said. And I think that's what everyone needs to say and say, is this the truth or is it not? Am I being lied to or not? And I don't care what the consequences are. I care about trying to find the truth. And if that means I have to go to the celestial kingdom and do these safety recovery strats with God to get to the celestial kingdom in some other eternity, so be it. So be it. But I'm going to fight. I'm going to keep trying. Consequences? You could risk your exaltation if you eat the fruit and you start this world, Adam. You're immortal. You're living in the garden. If you eat the fruit, you could lose it all. He ate the fruit. Okay? There's a lot of bad things that have happened because he ate that fruit. But it's the risk that we're willing to take, and we got to keep fighting. That's just what I wanted to say. We got to push forward. We got to fight for the truth. And, trust in the atonement. to save you. Obviously, I'm not condoning sin or saying you should that you should do bad things or something like that. Of course not. But I'm saying be fearless. Be fearless in your search for the truth, in declaring the truth, and be wrong. Be brave enough to be wrong and just count that God will correct you. I just wish we had that attitude. Everyone is like so scared of saying the wrong thing, of criticizing the wrong person, of saying the blasphemy, or doing the this or that, or being the inappropriate. It's like, I'm done with that. I'm done with that. Got to bulldoze it, start over. What matters? What's true? What's not true? We are like way off course. Like, I don't even know what's going on. So that's how I feel about it. I just wanted to add those thoughts. And yeah, Kingdom Hoppers. So the Kingdom Hoppers, that's going to be our gang name. We're the Kingdom Hoppers, and we're prepared. We're prepared to go to the Telestial Kingdom again and again and again, if that's what it takes. But we will not stand by. As the church dwindles and wavers in unbelief, we're going to be the catalyst. We're going to be the troublemaker. And everyone's going to march to the beat that we set. And we're not going to be mad at Moses for giving us the law of Moses, but we're not going to accept the law of Moses. We are going to demand more. That's what I had to say. So I think that sums it up. I feel better about that video I made. There were certain things that I thought were way too subtle, because I think one of the funniest things in the world is a joke that only I understand, but sometimes it goes too far, and it's like, I don't even know if I understood what I was saying, but I just want to clear that up.